The stars twinkled peacefully above the Seoul National University laboratory, where Dr. Han stood frozen in disbelief. The small device on her workbench, originally designed to test quantum field manipulations, had just done something impossible. The coffee in her mug hovered an inch above the surface before splashing back down. "It worked," she whispered, her voice barely audible in the empty lab. 3 years of research had led to this moment, not the breakthrough she'd been looking for, but something far more significant. Her quantum tunneling experiment had accidentally warped space itself. Within weeks, the discovery spread across the global scientific community. Within months, the first small test vessel equipped with Dr. Han's drive pushed beyond light speed. Humanity had broken the final barrier to the stars. The celebration lasted exactly 7 days. On the morning of the 8th day, the massive ship appeared without warning, hanging silently above Tokyo Bay, its metallic surface reflecting sunlight across the water below. Nearly 2 kilometers in length, it dwarfed anything humans had ever built. People around the world watched their screens as the first transmission came through. The alien figure spoke perfect English with an odd musical accent. "Greetings, newest spacefaring species. I represent the Galactic Council. Your recent faster-than-light journey has registered on our monitoring networks. As is our custom, we extend an invitation to your world to send representatives to our next assembly." Earth fell into controlled chaos. World leaders gathered in emergency session while the alien ship waited patiently in orbit. After 3 days of intense debate, the decision was made. Humanity would accept the invitation. Dr. Han was the obvious first choice as delegate, the inventor of the drive that had brought this moment. Captain Park, the cool-headed commander who had piloted the first FTL test flight, would accompany her. They would bring a small team of scientists, diplomats, and security personnel. The Council provided transport, a sleek vessel that made Earth's most advanced ships look like children's toys. As they boarded, Dr. Han couldn't shake a growing feeling of unease. The alien crew members moved with practiced efficiency, barely acknowledging the humans. "They're not impressed," Captain Park whispered as they settled into their quarters. "I've seen that look before during joint military exercises with more advanced nations. They think we're primitive." "We are primitive compared to them, Doctor," Han replied, watching the Earth shrink to a blue dot through the viewport. "But even children grow up." The journey lasted 3 weeks by their reckoning, though the ship's pilot explained they had traveled across half the galaxy. When they finally arrived, the human delegation stared in awe at the Council Station, a massive ring structure orbiting a binary star system, large enough to hold millions. They were escorted through grand hallways filled with beings of every imaginable form. Some moved on many legs, others floated, and still others shifted shape as they walked. Yet despite the diversity, Dr. Han noticed something troubling. The way every species they passed turned to watch them, their expressions or postures conveying what could only be described as amusement. "They're looking at us like we're zoo animals," one of the diplomats muttered. Their first formal meeting confirmed these fears. In an enormous chamber with rising tiers of seats, representatives from hundreds of species gathered. A tall, willowy being with iridescent skin, introduced as High Counselor Lee, welcomed them with smooth words that didn't reach his 6 eyes. "The Council welcomes Earth's delegates. Your species has taken its first steps beyond your world. This is always a momentous occasion." Captain Park stepped forward and delivered humanity's prepared greeting. He spoke of peace, cooperation, and humble appreciation for being welcomed among the stars. As he finished, something shifted in the chamber, a ripple of movement. It took the humans several seconds to realize what was happening. Laughter. Hundreds of different species, each with their own way of showing amusement, were laughing at humanity's introduction. "The young ones are always so earnest," said a bulky creature near the front, its translator barely keeping up with its rumbling voice. "They think discovering what we mastered millions of years ago makes them special." High Counselor Lee raised a long-fingered hand for quiet. "Humanity is granted observational status, the standard designation for newly spacefaring species. You may watch our proceedings and learn our ways. Perhaps in a few thousand years, you might advance enough to contribute meaningfully." Dr. Han felt her cheeks burn as more chuckles echoed through the chamber. Captain Park's face remained carefully blank, but his eyes hardened. The other humans shifted uncomfortably, the cruel reality of their position in the galactic order becoming painfully clear. As they were escorted from the chamber, Dr. Han leaned close to Captain Park. "They're underestimating us," she whispered. Captain Park nodded slightly. "Everyone always does. And it's always their mistake." The human delegation had spent 6 long months in their assigned quarters on the Galactic Council station. 6 months of being ignored, overlooked and occasionally mocked by passing council members. 6 months of Dr. Han and her team poring over whatever scientific information they were allowed access to, learning what they could about the advanced technologies that surrounded them. Captain Park had established a routine of daily meetings to keep morale up. Today's gathering in their common area had just begun when the station's lighting suddenly shifted to a deep purple. "What's happening?" asked Dr. Han, looking up from her datapad. Their assigned guide, a 4-armed being named Bin, who barely concealed his boredom with the humans, rushed into the room without knocking. "Emergency Council Assembly," Bin said, his translator making his voice sound oddly flat. "All species representatives must attend." The humans exchanged puzzled glances. This was the first time they'd been included in anything important. When they reached the Grand Assembly Hall, the atmosphere was completely different from their first visit. Gone was the casual arrogance. Instead, the vast chamber hummed with tension. Many council members gestured frantically with various appendages, while others sat unnaturally still. High Councillor Lee stood at the center platform, his usual composed demeanor replaced by obvious strain. The images projected above him showed a star system, then a blinding flash as the entire system simply disappeared. "This is the 9th system lost in the past month," Lee announced once the chamber quieted. "The anomaly continues to expand. 3 inhabited worlds have already been evacuated. Projections suggest it will reach core council territories within 1 standard year." The images shifted to show a strange distortion in space, a rippling darkness that seemed to swallow light itself. Dr. Han leaned forward, suddenly intensely focused. "Our greatest scientific minds have been unable to determine the anomaly's nature or how to stop its spread," Lee continued. "Therefore, the High Council has authorized an unprecedented action. We announce a galaxy-wide challenge. Any species that provides a viable solution will be granted immediate full council membership, along with stewardship rights to 3 star systems of their choosing." The chamber erupted in noise. Captain Park turned to Dr. Han, whose eyes remained fixed on the projection. "Dr. Han, what are you seeing?" She didn't answer immediately, her fingers moving rapidly over her datapad, making calculations. "It looks familiar," she finally said. "The wave pattern at the edge of the anomaly. It's similar to what I observed in my early quantum tunneling experiments, when the field became unstable." Later that evening, the human team gathered around Dr. Han as she explained her theory. "It's like a tear in space-time, but it's not random. See these oscillation patterns? They're maintaining the rupture, keeping it from healing itself." "Can it be stopped?" Captain Park asked. "Maybe. I need more data, but if I'm right, we could potentially create a counter-resonance field to dampen the oscillations. It would need to be precisely calibrated, but let's bring this to the Council immediately," suggested one of the diplomats. Captain Park shook his head. "Not yet. We need to be certain. They've already shown what they think of human ideas." For 2 weeks, Dr. Han worked tirelessly, sleeping only when exhaustion forced her to. She requested additional data about the anomaly, which Bin reluctantly provided, clearly assuming she couldn't possibly understand it. When Dr. Han finally announced she had a solution, Captain Park arranged an audience with the Science Advisory Committee, a step below the High Council, but the proper channel for their proposal. The committee chamber was smaller but no less intimidating. 7 beings, each from a different advanced species, sat in elevated chairs looking down at the humans. The committee head, a ghost-like being called Director Yang, spoke first. "We understand humanity wishes to present a solution to the galactic crisis. While we appreciate your enthusiasm, we must remind you that this is an extremely complex phenomenon beyond the comprehension of newly spacefaring species. Dr. Hahn stepped forward, her voice steady despite her nervousness. With respect, Director, the anomaly shows distinct patterns that suggest it's a quantum tunneling cascade effect. My research on Earth focused on similar phenomena, albeit on a much smaller scale. She began explaining her theory, showing the correlations between the anomaly's behavior and her own experimental data. As she spoke, several committee members started exchanging looks that the humans had come to recognize, the universal expression of dismissive amusement. Your species only achieved faster-than-light travel months ago, interrupted one member, a crystalline being whose voice chimed like bells. The concept of quantum tunneling cascades wasn't even theorized by the Jiroon, and they've been studying quantum physics for 50,000 years. Different perspectives sometimes see what others miss, Dr. Hahn replied calmly, though her hands trembled slightly. My solution involves creating a counter-resonance field at these specific coordinates. Enough, Director Yang said, raising a translucent hand. While your attempt is admirable, this crisis requires serious scientific approaches from established species. Your proposal will be noted, but we cannot waste resources on untested theories from a species with your limited understanding. The committee dismissed them with polite but firm words about knowing their place. As they left the chamber, one of the diplomats cursed under his breath. They didn't even review her actual calculations, he said. They just saw humans and stopped listening. Captain Park placed a hand on Dr. Hahn's shoulder. Are you confident in your solution? She nodded, her face set with determination. The math checks out. The anomaly's frequency pattern is almost identical to what I saw in my lab when the quantum fields destabilized. They're not seeing it because they're overthinking, looking for something far more complex. Captain Park's eyes narrowed as he made a decision. Then we don't need their permission. We just need a plan. That night, as the station's lights dimmed to simulate night, the human delegation gathered secretly in their quarters. Captain Park stood before them, his military bearing more pronounced than ever. I've contacted Earth. They're sending our experimental ships. If the Council won't listen, we'll have to show them instead. The emergency alert sounded throughout the Galactic Council station, its harsh tone followed by a solemn announcement. The Tekla system has been lost. Evacuation. Ships rescued 82% of the population. It was the 12th system destroyed in 3 weeks. The atmosphere aboard the station had shifted from concern to barely contained panic. Captain Park watched the council members rushing past their quarters, too preoccupied with their own survival to pay any attention to the humans. Perfect timing, he thought. In their common room, the human delegation gathered around a holographic display showing 12 small ships approaching the station. Earth had responded to Park's request with remarkable speed, sending every FTL-capable vessel they had. Experimental ships with minimal testing, crews hastily assembled from the best pilots and engineers on Earth. A desperate gamble, but the only one they had. They've just docked at the auxiliary bay, said Lieutenant Choi, their communications officer. Council security is stretched thin dealing with the refugee crisis. Our people will be aboard in 10 minutes. Dr. Han looked up from her calculations. Dark circles rimmed her eyes after days without proper sleep. The equipment? Everything you requested, Park confirmed. Built to your exact specifications, though the engineers said some of it was highly unconventional. Dr. Han allowed herself a small smile. Unconventional is exactly what we need. The door slid open and their guide Bin burst in, his forearms moving in agitated patterns. Humans! You must prepare for possible evacuation. The Council is considering abandoning the outer sectors. He stopped mid-sentence, staring at the holographic display showing Earth ships. His large eyes blinked rapidly. What is this? What are those vessels doing here? Captain Park stepped forward. They're here to help with the crisis. Bin made a sound that his translator couldn't interpret, something between a laugh and a snort. Those tiny vessels, they're barely large enough to hold a proper engine room. What could they possibly do against the anomaly? Sometimes the size of the ship matters less than the minds inside it, Park replied calmly. Before Bin could respond, the door opened again. A dozen humans entered, ship captains and crew leaders, their faces determined despite the exhaustion of their rushed journey. "Captain Park," said the first, a woman with short grey hair and the weathered face of a veteran pilot. "Commander Yu, reporting with Earth's fleet, small as it is." Bin stared at the newcomers, then back at Park. His translator struggled to keep up with his rapid speech. "You cannot be serious. This is not authorized. The Council has not—" "The Council dismissed our solution without proper review," Park interrupted. "Meanwhile, worlds are being destroyed. We're implementing Dr. Han's plan with or without Council approval. This is madness. Your primitive ships will be torn apart before they even reach the anomaly's edge." Dr. Han stepped forward, her voice quiet but firm. "Our ships have been modified specifically for this mission. The quantum resonance generators we've installed are designed to—" "I must report this to security." Bin moved toward the door but found his path blocked by two of the newly arrived humans. Captain Park sighed. "I'm sorry, Bin. We can't let you do that until we're underway." The next 6 hours passed in a blur of activity. While two humans kept watch on the increasingly agitated Bin, the rest prepared for their mission. Dr. Han briefed the ship captains on the precise specifications of the counter-resonance field they would need to generate. "The key is synchronization," she explained, showing them the complex mathematics on her display. "All 12 ships must maintain specific positions and activate their generators in perfect sequence." Commander Yu frowned. "The timing is incredibly precise. One mistake and the backlash could destroy our ships," Dr. Han finished. "I know what I'm asking." Commander Yu studied the equations for a long moment, then nodded. "My crew can handle it. We've been training for the impossible since we signed up." As the other captains voiced their agreement, Bin watched in bewilderment. His translator struggled to keep up with the rapid exchange of technical details, innovations, and improvisations as the humans adapted their plan to meet each new challenge. "I don't understand," he finally said. "Why are you doing this? The Council already rejected your theory. Even if you're right, which centuries of advanced physics says you cannot be? Why risk your lives? Your species isn't even in the path of the anomaly yet." The room fell silent. Captain Park turned to Bin, his expression serious. "Because that's what humans do. We see a problem. We try to fix it, not just for ourselves but for everyone." Bin's many-faceted eyes blinked rapidly. "The Council species have evolved over millions of years to become perfect specialists. The Loran are unmatched in mathematics. The Veda are supreme in engineering. The Jirun understand quantum physics better than any race in the galaxy. What special evolution do humans have?" Dr. Han looked up from her work. "We don't specialize, we adapt, we're generalists. And sometimes that lets us see connections others miss." Hours later, as the fleet prepared to depart, Dr. Han made a final discovery. She had been reviewing brain scans taken of various species, studying the anomaly data, comparing them to human patterns. "Captain, look at this," she said, pointing to her screen. "When Council species process quantum probabilities, they use specific neural pathways, highly evolved, highly specialized. But humans, we use multiple parts of our brain simultaneously. We process quantum uncertainty differently." "Is that good or bad?" Park asked. "It might be the key to everything. They're looking for perfect precision in an inherently unpredictable field. We're comfortable with uncertainty. We can conceptualize multiple quantum states simultaneously, without the neural specialization that might actually be limiting their perception." As the fleet commanders made their final preparations, Bin watched the humans with growing fascination. He had requested to join their mission, partly to represent Council interests, he claimed, but his eyes betrayed a deeper curiosity. "You're not what I expected," he told Captain Park as they boarded the lead ship. "The Council has encountered thousands of young species over the millennia. Most either cower in fear or bluster with false confidence. You're doing something else entirely." Park checked the final system readings before answering. "Humanity has always been good at surprising others, mostly because we're so good at surprising ourselves." As Earth's tiny fleet of 12 ships pulled away from the massive Council station, the contrast couldn't have been more stark. Small, hastily modified vessels against the backdrop of the most advanced civilization in the galaxy. On the station's observation deck, Several council members watched their departure with expressions ranging from amusement to pity. "Those little ships won't survive a day," one remarked. Another nodded. Such a waste. Young species never understand their limitations. None of them noticed High Counselor Lee watching silently from the shadows, his 6 eyes narrowed in thought. "I'll expand part 4 of your story into a more detailed narrative of about 900 words, keeping the language simple and engaging while focusing on human characters. Here's the expanded version: Defiance and Discovery." The command room buzzed with tension as Captain Park slammed his fist on the table. "We didn't come all this way to turn back now," he said, his voice steady despite the fear gripping everyone's hearts. The crew exchanged nervous glances. The Council's orders had been clear: stay away from the anomaly. But something about those orders felt wrong. "The Council's hiding something," said Dr. Han, her eyes fixed on the anomaly readings. "These patterns aren't random, they're too perfect." The fleet's 5 ships hovered at the edge of decision. Turning back meant safety. Moving forward meant becoming outlaws. "I say we go," said Lieutenant Rodriguez, standing up. "If we're wrong, we face punishment. If we're right and do nothing, who knows what might happen?" One by one, the crew members nodded in agreement. Captain Park took a deep breath and opened the ship-wide communication channel. "This is your captain speaking. The Council has ordered us to return. I believe this order goes against our mission as explorers and protectors. I'm choosing to disobey. Anyone who wishes to return can take the shuttle. No one will think less of you." Silence fell across the ship. Then the communications officer spoke up. "Sir, all ships are reporting in. Everyone's staying." Park nodded, his throat tight with emotion. "Then let's find out what's really going on out there." The 5 ships powered up their engines and moved toward the anomaly's pulsing edge. The swirling colors grew more intense as they approached, like a storm of light and energy. Back on Earth, High Counselor Kim paced the council chamber, her face dark with rage. "They've disobeyed direct orders," she snapped at her advisors. "Launch the warships. Bring them back by force if necessary." Within hours, 12 council warships shot into space, their weapon systems fully charged. Meanwhile, the human fleet had reached the anomaly's outer boundary. The ship's sensors were going crazy, picking up strange energy readings unlike anything they'd seen before. "These patterns," Dr. Han muttered, staring at her screens. "They're not natural. They're coded." She called up old research files, comparing the patterns. Her eyes widened. "Captain, this isn't a natural phenomenon, it's artificial. Someone built this." The crew gathered around her station, watching as she decoded the ancient signals. "It's some kind of weapon system," she explained, her voice trembling with excitement. "Created by a species that lived millions of years ago." "A weapon? Against what?" asked the navigation officer. Dr. Han's fingers flew across the keyboard. "According to these readings, against the Council itself. Or rather, against any ruling power that becomes tyrannical. It was designed as a failsafe, a way to prevent any single group from controlling everyone else." Captain Park frowned. "Why would the Council hide this from us?" "Because they knew what it was," Lieutenant Rodriguez said quietly. "They've known all along, and they've been afraid of it." The ship's alarm suddenly blared. "Captain, Council warships approaching fast," called out the tactical officer. On the view screen, 12 sleek warships appeared, weapons hot and ready to fire. "They're ordering us to stand down and prepare to be boarded," reported the communications officer. At that moment, the anomaly pulsed brightly. Energy tendrils shot out from its swirling center, reaching toward the Council ships like glowing fingers. "It's responding to the weapons," Dr. Han shouted over the alarms. "The system thinks it's under attack." The crew watched in awe as the ancient defense system activated. Beams of energy wrapped around 3 Council ships, holding them in place. "Captain, we need to shut it down before this gets worse," Dr. Han urged. "If the Council ships keep firing, the system might escalate. There's no telling what kind of power this thing has." Captain Park nodded grimly. "How do we do that?" "We need to reach the control center. According to these readings, it's inside the anomaly itself." The tactical officer's face paled. "Inside that thing? Is that even possible?" Dr. Han pointed to a spot on her screen where the energy patterns seemed weaker. There. That's our way. And Captain Park didn't hesitate. Helm, take us in, slow and steady. The ship eased forward, entering the swirling energy field. The hull groaned under the strain, but held together. Around them, the anomaly's interior revealed itself, a vast network of energy pathways, all connecting to a central structure that glowed with an eerie blue light. "That's it," Dr. Hahn whispered. "The control center." Outside, chaos had erupted. The Council ships fired on the anomaly, only to have their weapons turned back on them. More energy tendrils reached out, capturing additional ships. As their ship approached the central structure, a communication channel suddenly opened. An image appeared, not human, not like any alien species they'd encountered before. The being spoke, its words somehow translating in their minds. "You have accessed the Sentinel. State your purpose." Captain Park stepped forward. "We seek to understand, not to control or destroy." The being seemed to consider this. "The Sentinel was created to prevent tyranny. It activates when power becomes too concentrated, when freedom dies. Is this happening in your time?" Before Park could answer, the ship rocked violently. A council. A weapon had struck them from behind. "We're losing hull integrity," shouted the engineer. Dr. Hahn rushed to the communication panel. "Please, help us stop this conflict. Too many will die otherwise." The ancient guardian studied her, then nodded. "I will allow temporary control access. Use it wisely." A panel opened on the central structure. Dr. Hahn and a small team took a shuttle across, boarding the ancient control center, while Captain Park kept the Council ships distracted. Inside, Dr. Hahn found herself surrounded by technology beyond her. Understanding. Yet somehow she knew what to do. Her hands moved across alien controls, finding the sequence to deactivate the defense systems. "Almost there," she whispered, as the final sequence activated. Around them, the anomaly began to change. The swirling energies calmed, the tendrils retreated. The trapped Council ships were released, and as the ancient weapon powered down, it left behind something unexpected: knowledge. Data streams poured into the human ship's computers, the last gift of a long-dead civilization that had faced tyranny and created hope. Respect earned. The great anomaly faded from angry red to peaceful blue, its swirling energies calming like a storm passing. On the bridge of their ship, the crew watched in stunned silence as the ancient weapon system powered down. Dr. Hahn's hands trembled as she stepped away from the control panel. "Did we actually do it?" Lieutenant Rodriguez whispered, almost afraid to break the quiet. Captain Park nodded slowly, his eyes fixed on the view screen. "We did." The comms officer's console beeped urgently. "Sir, the Council warships are hailing us." Park straightened his uniform. "Put them through." Admiral Voss of the Council fleet appeared on screen, his alien features tight with barely controlled rage. "Captain Park, you have directly disobeyed Council orders and interfered with a restricted zone. Your actions have endangered—" "With all due respect, Admiral," Park interrupted, "we just prevented an ancient defense system from destroying your fleet. I suggest we discuss the details back at the station." The Admiral's 6 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of confusion in his species. Behind him, other Council officers whispered urgently. "Very well," Voss finally said. "You will return to the station immediately under escort." The journey back was tense. Council warships surrounded the human vessels, weapons systems powered but not targeting. Inside their ship, Dr. Hahn worked furiously with her team, downloading and analyzing the massive data stream the ancient system had gifted them before shutting down. "This is incredible," she told Captain Park in his private quarters. "The species that built the weapon, they called themselves the predecessors. They left records of everything, including why they built it." "And why was that?" Park asked, pouring them both a drink. Dr. Hahn accepted the glass with a grateful nod. The Council, or rather an earlier version of it, was becoming tyrannical, controlling rather than governing. The predecessors built the system as a fail-safe, a way to reset the balance of power if needed. Park frowned. "But that was millions of years ago. And look at what's happening now," Dr. Hahn said quietly. "History repeats itself." When they docked at the station, They expected a rest. Instead, they found chaos. News of their discovery had somehow leaked. Hundreds of beings from various species crowded the docking bay, reporters shoving past security barriers, diplomats demanding statements. "Captain Park, is it true you discovered an ancient weapon?" "Dr. Han, can you confirm the Council knew about this threat? Will humans be punished for their actions?" Security officers pushed through the crowd, forming a protective barrier around the human crew. "The High Council demands your immediate presence," the lead officer stated. The council chamber was packed with representatives from every member species. High Councillor Kim sat at the center of the curved table, her usually composed features now rigid with tension. Beside her sat Councillor Jen, whose species had always been friendly to humans, and several others Park recognized as moderate voices. "Captain Park, Dr. Han, you stand before this council having directly violated our explicit orders," Kim began, her voice carrying across the hushed room. "What do you have to say in your defense?" Before Park could speak, Dr. Han stepped forward. She raised her hand, activating a holographic projection from her wrist device. Ancient symbols filled the air, followed by images of the weapon system's interior. "Honorable councillors, what we discovered wasn't just an anomaly. It was a message and a warning." Her voice grew stronger as she continued. "The predecessors built this system as a check against power being misused, against secrets being kept from member species." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. "Secrets?" Councillor Zhen asked, leaning forward. "What secrets?" Dr. Han's next projection showed council communications, classified documents describing the anomaly dating back 50 years. "The council leadership has known about this weapon for decades," she said firmly. "They knew what it was, they knew what it meant, and they kept it hidden." The chamber erupted. Species representatives shouted questions at the High Council members, who shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Kim's face had gone pale. "How did you access classified council communications?" she demanded. "We didn't," Captain Park said. "The predecessors did. Their final gift to us was truth." Over the next 3 days, the station hummed with activity. Emergency sessions were called. Votes were taken. Several senior council members, including 3 who had most strongly opposed human membership, resigned in disgrace when evidence emerged of their cover-up. On the 4th day, Captain Park and Dr. Han were summoned again to the council chamber. The atmosphere was different now, subdued, almost respectful. High Councillor Kim, who had narrowly survived a vote of no confidence, stood as they entered. "Captain Park, Dr. Han, after careful consideration of recent events, this council has reached a decision." She paused, seeming to struggle with her next words. "Humanity is granted full membership in the Galactic Council, effective immediately." The chamber, packed once again with observers, erupted in applause. Park felt Rodriguez squeeze his arm in excitement. Kim continued once the noise died down. "Furthermore, in recognition of their service to the Council and all its peoples, Dr. Han is appointed to head our new division of historical technologies, and Captain Park will serve as humanity's first voting representative on this council." Park stepped forward, genuinely surprised. "High Councillor, I'm honored, but I'm not a politician. I'm an explorer." A ripple of appreciative laughter ran through the chamber, the first time he'd ever heard such a sound here. "Perhaps that is exactly what this council needs, Captain," said Councillor Jen warmly. "Someone who explores rather than assumes, who questions rather than accepts." In the days that followed, the change was remarkable. Species that had once dismissed humans now sought their opinions. Diplomatic requests flooded in from worlds that had previously ignored Earth's existence. Dr. Han's team grew as scientists from dozens of species volunteered to help study the predecessors' data. One evening, as Park stood by the observation deck watching ships come and go, he sensed someone approach. Turning, he was surprised to see High Councillor Kim. For a moment they stood in silence watching the stars. "I've served on the council for 73 of your Earth years, Captain," she finally said. "I thought I had seen everything." "Understood. Everything?" Park waited, saying nothing. "We laughed at humanity's youth," she continued, her voice softer now. "Your impulsiveness, your emotion-driven decisions." She turned to face him directly. In doing so, we forgot the most important lesson of evolution. Sometimes the newest species see what the oldest have forgotten. She extended her hand in the human gesture of respect she had once mocked. On behalf of the Council, I offer a formal apology and my personal gratitude. Park took her hand, feeling the weight of the moment. We all have something to learn from each other, High Counselor. As they shook hands, a new ship approached the station, the first of many bringing human diplomats, scientists, and families to their new place in the galactic community. Not as students or supplicants, but as equals. The age of human isolation was over. The age of human contribution had begun.